Not that anybody asked, but I'll say anyway. I'm here in Houston, and it's hot. It's Houston. What do you expect?
Here in Austin, Texas, we have a beautiful spring day. Had a nice little cool down with some rain over the weekend. Oh, we have a relative in Austin. What part of town does he live in? Okay, everyone. I'm just going to wait another minute or two to make sure everybody has a chance to join. Oh, near the domain. Okay, I know that area. I live in East Central Austin here.
Yeah, we were. My son attended the University of Texas, and so we went to see a football game a couple of years ago and stayed at a little retro motor lodge over in the domain. It was pretty fun. Everything was mint green and pale pink and meant to look like it was straight out of the 50s, although it was still very modern and nice.
Cute. Oh, Guyan, what do you think? Should we get rolling here, or do we want to wait another moment or two?
I think let's go. Let's get started.
All right, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for SnapStream's AMA session on transitioning from Vallah Con. This is the third in a series of events that we are doing to introduce our new monitoring and compliance solution called Moko. Our first event was a founders chat between Gary Lerner, who is the founder of Vallah Con, one of the founders, and Rakesh Agrawal, who is our founder. That was a few weeks ago. And then a couple of weeks ago, we had a product tour of our compliance monitoring features. Both of those are available to view recordings on our website, and if you let us know, we can send over links to those if you like.
Slide
and
deck.
then today is an
slide deck.
Pardon?
You're not sharing your slides.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No.
Stand by.
You're just anxious to get right to the questions. I know.
Yeah, well, you know, I was sharing my screen during our rehearsal earlier, and I forgot that I had stopped it. So my apologies, everyone. That's the only slide you missed. So yeah, we had our founders chat, we had our product tour. Let us know if you want the links to those. Today is our Ask Me Anything session on making a speedy and seamless transition from Vallah Con to Moko. So we want the focus for this to be on the questions that you all are bringing to the table as potential users of Moko and current customers of Vallah Con. Before we get to those questions, just a few words of introduction. My name is Daniel Mee. I'm your host, and I'm the sales engineer here at SnapStream. You can see that my hair has grown quite a lot since this picture was taken. We also have three other members of our technical staff here. Paul, you want to introduce yourself?
I do, yeah. Thank you, Daniel. My name is Paul Place. I'm the Director of Engineering here at SnapStream, and also the technical lead on the Moko team. So, you know, hopefully we can get all your questions answered. Pete?
Yeah, I'm Peter Holmer, and I run the QA department here at SnapStream. I also ran the pilot program with Moco, where we actually brought the product to customers in the field early on the beta process and worked with them to make sure we were giving them the features they needed to be successful with the product. And so I'm probably the best person to talk about questions for transition, things like that. So I'm happy to be here today to take questions. Michael?
Hey, I'm Michael Bowie. I'm the support team lead. I help transition all the Vallah Con customers support to SnapStream support, and I'll be helping you transition your systems to Moco.
Let's hope so. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so at this point, this would be a great time for you to send in any questions that you may have. What you want to do is just click on the Q&A button in the meeting and just type in your question, and we will see it and we'll read it off and then read the answer. So while we are waiting for those to come in, I want to ask a poll question. We'd like to know whether you currently have a monitoring and compliance solution in place. So I'm just going to launch that poll and take a moment to answer that if you can. Sorry about that. We're all working from home right now. All right, thanks for those answers. A lot of Vallah Con users out there. It's good to see. Okay, so just a few words of introduction about what Moco is. Moco is SnapStream's entrance into the compliance monitoring space. It's a reliable turnkey monitoring system with a streamlined and intuitive workflow. And we're a completely US-based company with responsive support and engineering departments. Just a brief overview of what our customer base looks like, both across Moco and our flagship product, which is a DVR. We have a wide variety of TV-oriented customers, including both networks and affiliates. We have TV production and other sorts of organizations like sports leagues, the United States Senate. So we're used to working with a really wide variety of customers. And we are, in case you didn't know, the official transition partner for Vallah Con support. Gary Lerner had this to say: Moco has all the key ingredients to pick up where Vallah Con left off: excellent management, engineering, and support. So without further ado, let's turn to the questions. One or two questions that came in advance. One of you asked, what are the specs of a typical Moco server? So we do offer a turnkey appliance to run our solution. So Pete, maybe you could talk a little bit about what that box looks like.
Absolutely. Moco servers come in three sizes. There's basically a high-end, a mid, and entry-level system. The high-end system is the one that we've sold the most of so far, and that maxes out at 10 inputs. With that, you're getting a 3U chassis. There's 2 Xeon server processors in there and 64 gigs of RAM, and it's about 12 cores per prox, so 24 cores total across the server. So very, very beefy machine. We've got a RAID 1 volume on there for the OS, and then RAID 5 or 6 for storage, depending on your configuration, the number of drives that come in there. And then every server has a Quadro card in there, which actually that handles the proxy generation process for it. So we're offloading that from the CPU, which gives us much more bandwidth for that. And then we run Windows Server on all these machines. The mid and entry level systems are actually a 2U chassis, and then half the RAM. And then it's the proc size will vary, and the inputs there aren't limited with a hard number at 10 like the large system, but we basically will right size that based on your needs. So talk to sales, we'll figure out what we need, and we'll get you the right system to meet your needs.
Great, thanks, Pete. Anything else that anybody wants to know about what the platform looks like? Feel free to weigh in, and we'll address that. Another question that we had come in is whether as those of you who are Vallah Con customers may know, SnapStream is providing support for qualifying Vallah Con systems until the end of June 30th. That's our cutoff right now, but some of you may be interested in knowing whether that support can be extended. So for any customer that is purchasing or in the process of purchasing a SnapStream Moko solution, we're going to continue to support their Vallah Con system while we provision that solution. We want to ensure a smooth transition process with a good runway for everyone, and we recognize that this is continuing support and providing that continuity is a great way to deliver a quality experience for our customers. Another question that we've had come in is whether we can run SnapStream on the same hardware as an existing Vallah Con solution. And unfortunately, we cannot do that because SnapStream software is designed, tested, and certified to run on a specific platform that consists of hardware, OS, and applications. And unfortunately, we can't guarantee the necessary level of performance when we deploy onto existing Vallah Con hardware. I'm sorry about that. Another question I'm seeing here is, what is the transition process like from Vallah Con and sort of what we've done to make it easy? Michael and Pete, can either of y'all weigh in on that? Michael, do you want to speak first?
Yeah, sure. Pretty much what will happen is we'll set up a remote session, log into your Vallah Con system, and examine what needs, what settings you have. We've been working on Vallah Con systems as far as support for over a year now, so we're pretty familiar how to pull out all the settings that you need to import them into SnapStream. There's no actual process, but we will replicate all the settings in SnapStream Moco once we have all that information and work with you if anything needs to be modified.
Great, thanks. Pete, did you have anything to add? I know that you've worked with a number of our Moko customers in the process of running pilots, so I wonder if you have any thoughts on what the transition is like.
It's pretty seamless. The pre-sales process, we basically, as Michael has mentioned, we'll look at your Vallah Con system and we'll pull the profile from there for your as-run logs and things like your Nielsen ratings. And once we have that all pulled together, when the server's delivered, we'll know exactly what needs to happen to get you back up and running. And so it'll basically be as simple as turning off a Vallah Con server and then turning on the Moko server with all those settings in place and just running from day one.
Great. Thanks, guys. Another question that I'm seeing here is about a Snell automation system and whether we can import the as-run logs from that system into Vallah Con, and whether we can do that in Moko as well. Pete, do you want to comment on that?
Absolutely. I kind of hinted this in my last answer as well. What we do, there's an asrun.profile file that Vallah Con uses, and that basically that tells Vallah Con how to parse the asrun logs that you're ingesting from your system, whatever that system might be. That's very flexible, and we actually support those same profiles. So if you already have a profile that's working, we just copy that from your Vallah Con, plug it into the right place on your SnapStream system, and your asrun logs import like nothing ever changed. If you're not currently using a Vallah Con or you can't locate that file, we're actually generally able, with a sample of your asrun logs, we can also create that on our end and have that in place for you when you take delivery of the system. So it's something we've done a number of times, and it just works well for us.
Fantastic. Let's see. We have another question about whether SnapStream can export clips the same way Vallah Con does. Michael, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah. SnapStream generates clips just like Vallah Con with no issues. It's actually an easier interface to navigate through to create your clips. And then you can export them to your social media, your NAS, or just download them to your local computer. It's a great web interface. There's no plugin, so it's not, you don't have to use a specific browser for the plugin like Vallah Con does. So it's just HTML5, so any browser can work, and pretty straightforward.
Great. And one other thing that I'll add is that whereas with some other solutions, clipping and exporting is an add-on to the base module, with SnapStream, we offer an all-inclusive solution. So if you can record with Moco, you can clip, you can export, you can do all of the relevant things without having to, purchase any additional licenses or any additional hardware. It's all self-contained. Another question is about input streams with multiple audio tracks. Does Moco compute the loudness values for the tracks like Vallah Con does? And how does it handle 5.1 audio? Paul, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. Yeah, we automatically detect the number of audio tracks, when you configure an input stream, and once if you enable loudness monitoring, we automatically generate and collect the loudness values for each of those audio tracks, and allow you to sort of look at all of those, any number of those that you want in our loudness monitoring UI. For the 5.1 audio, we compute the loudness value of the 5.1 audio as is, but we also will compute it for the stereo down mix, since that's a requirement for a lot of customers who are broadcasting in 5.1 audio. So we give you both of those numbers just so that you can check and make sure everything is compliant the way it should be.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Another question about clips that's come in. Can I edit clips? For example, can I drop a segment of a clip and export it? I think that what's being asked here is whether we can sort of take a segment and remove part of it and then stitch that back together. And we don't have a direct way to sort of punch out part of a clip, but we do have some pretty sophisticated features for creating playlists of clips that allow you to merge. So what you probably do there is, create a playlist of the pieces that you're looking for, and you can do that without creating subclips. Basically you'll mark, one segment and then another segment, put those in a list, and then merge that together. And so what you will get is, just the content that you want in a single exported file. This may be something that makes sense to go through in detail in a demo. So for something like this, I would recommend, get in touch with our sales department. We'll put that up on the screen at the end here, and we can set up a demo to walk you through exactly how it would work.
Yeah, and just to add, excuse me, Daniel, just to add a little bit more to that, what Daniel described, I think, is a good way to deal with that scenario with the existing functionality. We're also always listening to our customers, looking for opportunities to extend the feature set. Doesn't mean we guarantee that we will, but we're always interested in what our customers, what their workflows look like, so that we can, make sure that our features meet their needs. I just wanted to throw that in. One of the hallmarks of SnapStream engineering is that we've always been very responsive in, listening to what our customers are trying to do so that we can work with them on it.
That's a really great point, Paul. Thanks. Yeah, as a company with a strong background in serving users outside broadcast engineering, we really care about, we've spent a long time listening to our users and incorporating their feedback into our product. And, we have a really strong culture of making our customers feel empowered and supported that really informs, everything we do, from development and testing to customer service, technical support. So, we want to hear our customers' feedback so that we can, incorporate that and continue to make the product better. Let's see. Another question is, do we support the same inputs that Vallah Con does? And Pete, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Right, I was still muted. So sure, no problem. We actually support the same ATSC, 8SVB, QAM, ASI. We support most things you'd expect to run into in a broadcast environment. So ATSC or QAM, ASI, I mentioned ATSV. Your OTT formats like HLS or RTMP we support as inputs as well, and HDMI. So there is yet to be a scenario where someone has asked for something we haven't supported already. And then for SDI input, we currently use an external encoder. There is a plan in the future to get that, to bring that on board, but we haven't gotten there just yet. So think that covers it.
Great, thanks. Question about transitioning. Can I import my users from Vallah Con to SnapStream? Unfortunately not. We can't export a list of users from Vallah Con and import that to SnapStream. The formatting is too different. But we do support Active Directory and as well as single sign-on via SAML, Okta, and some other flavors. So, our experience has been that, those options make this part of the process a lot less painful, because you can, use your existing sign-on scheme and just import that into SnapStream. You don't have to create a bunch of new accounts. Let's see, another question about is Moco a new product? Yes, Moco is a new product. SnapStream as a company is almost 20 years old. We started in 2001 as a software company serving the consumer DVR space. Since 2007, we've been offering both enterprise and cloud solutions for use in media monitoring, TV production, other areas. So Moco is our entry into the monitoring and compliance arena specifically, but it's running on the same code base as our flagship product. So, we've got more than a decade of development work behind that. So, although this is a, new product, it's very well validated as a piece of software. So we have a lot of confidence in how well this is going to serve Vallah Con customers. Let's see. Another question that came in. What is the storage depth like? What is the base amount of storage? Can I bring my own storage? Pete, are you able to talk about that at all?
Sure. We've got a few different, storage is pretty flexible overall. Let me get the right sheet in front of me real quick here. Of course, I closed that window. So, give me 1 second here.
So while he's looking that up, the short answer is that storage is configurable.
Yes.
And, and what we do during the sales process is, collect information about what you want to record, what kind of quality you're looking for, how long you want to keep it, and we'll use that to spec out the storage needs for the platform that we're designing for you.
Exactly. And yeah, we've got a few base sizes in there set up with with CAN configurations going from 16 terabytes to 160 terabytes natively on the system. And we also allow you to utilize a NAS for storage. We charge you per terabyte for index storage off of our system as well. So that's an option too.
Right, and we even have a little sort of handy dandy calculator on our website. If you look under the support tab at snapstream.com, there's a storage calculator that allows you to do sort of a back of the envelope type of estimate of, based on your needs, what kind of storage you might be wanting to provision.
Yeah, that tool's pretty neat. It's got like little sliders that you can adjust how much you want to record, what kind of quality you want, and it just spits out exactly what you need. Question came in, does the Active Directory integration work like Vallah Con, where we can control users that have different types of access levels? Michael, do you want to comment on that?
I was muted, sorry. Yes, we have plenty of user groups that is created inside SnapStream. Then it's linked to your Active Directory. So you can control all the user groups inside SnapStream and give them different permissions as needed. So depending on what your needs are, we can customize those groups to your needs.
Yeah, and our permission scheme is very granular. So basically, almost every feature in the UI has its own permission that you can turn on and off for individual groups to make sure that you have a lot of control over what your users are seeing and doing. Another question that came in, does Moco have the capability to monitor and control set-top boxes like Vallah Con? Paul, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So yeah, we currently have the ability to, and Pete can probably knows a little more detail on this than I do, but yeah, we can manage through the IR blasting mechanism set-top boxes, and we have some other mechanisms that we're working on and that we have in the works. Pete's probably a better
I think one of those is IP
detail.
control for like specific boxes. Oh, I'm sorry, Pete. Did you have something to add there?
I was going to add that as well. Yeah, and right now it's very simple interface. It'll give you the option to blast UI codes and do pre-configured or time blasts on them. But we're happy to hear use cases and actually add features on top of that as well. But what we have in the product currently is a simplified version of that feature.
Great. And another one that came in, are licensing costs based on number of user accounts, or is it for hardware? We do not license the user accounts individually. This actually came up on a call that we did earlier today. We allow unlimited user accounts per deployment. We don't limit that in any way. So you can have 100 users, you can have 200 users, and we don't put any limits on how many users can sign on at once. Our licensing is based on recording. So depending on how much you want to record, that's how the pricing is structured for you. So there's no limit on user accounts at all. That's a great question. That actually comes up quite a lot. I had a question, can we import recordings and associated metadata from Vallah Con into Moco? Unfortunately, I don't think that we can. Pete, can you talk a little bit about the reasons for that?
Sure. I mean, we had the ability, if they're just transport streams, we can import just the transport streams. The problem is the user experience is going to be terrible in that case, because the actual metadata that allows us to associate the recordings with each other to know, like, this recording happened at this date and time, and this recording came before it, this one came after it, we're missing. So you would have a folder full of directories, or a directory full of files that you could view and play it back, but you couldn't, view them, the loudest monitoring on them. You couldn't check the DPI information. You wouldn't be able to check the ratings information on them. So we really just wouldn't recommend that at all. If you need to do it for some reason, we can talk through it, but you're going to get a folder that is a jumble of files that you're just viewing in our library with no real organization around them. So I would not recommend that.
Okay. Let's see. For a station group, how easy is it to deploy Moco across the region and have everything flow back to a home server? That's an interesting question. So we do have some features around clustering together systems in different geographical areas. Paul, can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Sure. So the only reason I'm pausing is the word clustering in sort of enterprise computing gets way overused, in my opinion. I've actually worked on a cluster management product, so I have very specific ideas about how that term should be used. But unfortunately, it's sort of a term that a lot of customers are used to in this particular context. I would call it more federation, but we already used that for a different feature, so we ended up calling it super clustering in Moco. And the idea there is you have a central server that's an aggregation point, and then you deploy what we call endpoint Moco servers. So they're just regular standalone Moco servers that tie into this central server, and then then you log into the UI on the central server, and from there you can basically view what's going on the different endpoints. So one use case that we've had with a customer is, hey, we want to from the mothership be able to do ad verification at all of our remote sites. You know, we've got all these different geographically distributed stations, and we want to just be able to, you know, check to make sure that the ad that we had sold actually ran on the station at the time that we intended. So, you know, that allows them to not have to remote into that system off in LA. They can just, you know, from a web browser connect to their central federation point and then check out what's going on at all the different endpoints. So.
It's a really interesting question. Thank you.
Yeah, was that the right answer, or was there something? Did I miss anything?
I think it seems like it covered it to me, but you know, chime in with a follow-up if we need to provide more information about that. Let's see. Can I deploy Moco in a virtual environment? Yes, we can do that. There are some limitations to deploying virtually around proxy generation because normally we'll do that in hardware. And so if we're doing it in a virtual environment, then you know the calculations for resource allocation get a little different. But yeah, you know, talk to us. You know, let's set up a follow-up conversation to talk about what you want to do. We've definitely done Moco deployments virtually before, and we can do it again. So yeah, just let us know what you have in mind, and we can find a way to make it work. Let's see. I have a couple of questions about how Moco compares to Vallah Con. How is the UI compared to Vallah Con? How easy is it for new users to pick up? Are they similar? There are actually aspects of Moco that we have based in part on the Vallah Con experience to make this an easy transition for people. I'm just going to skip forward in our slideshow here a little bit to show some of that. This is our multi-view watch UI, and you can see that the Vallah Con observer here is here on the left. SnapStream is on the right. You can see that there's some similarity here. The basic functionality of using the checkboxes to select the things that you want to watch and having them just pop up here and having all those controls is quite similar. We did that intentionally so that we can give users a consistent experience and not have to have a bunch of retraining. Here's an example from loudness reporting. Our goal has just been to sort of like put our own stamp on this, make it as usable as we can, as clean as we can. So here's what the loudness reporting looks like. And yeah, so there's definitely some similarities there. The appearance is a little bit different, but we've made every effort that we can to give your users a consistent experience. Let's see. Can your Moco hardware record directly into our owned arrays instead of your recording drives, basically using only your server hardware and software? Pete, you talked a little bit about that earlier, right? When we were talking about the storage.
Slightly, yeah. I talked about the ability to have your storage live on a NAS or some kind of SAN or offboard storage, and we pay there's a per terabyte indexing fee for that. This question I think more relates to if someone's recording, they want to record instead of recording to disk locally on their node, they want to stream straight to their NAS, and we can certainly configure that and try it out. That's putting a lot of faith in your NAS though. Any kind of issue you have will be gapping your data. So the workflow that I would do in that case, which I think is a much better way of handling this, we can do is record to the drives on our local storage and then have a workflow that runs every hour, 2 hours, day, whatever, and then copies those files over to your NAS, which is a much better way to handle that. That just keeps minimizes the chance of failure because you don't want to be having stuff that's not backed up elsewhere in flight across your network. So that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we've supported recording directly to network attached storage in our PVR product for a long time, and just about every time what people end up doing is just recording locally and copying off to the NAS. There's no sort of performance cost to that, and it provides a little bit more stability and reliability for recording to those local disks. So, but we can definitely, work with your network attached storage in, either way.
Yeah, and so I was just going to provide a little bit more context around why working locally and then copying off to the remote is by far the preferred approach. Just because during a recording, there's so much I/O happening, not just laying down the bits coming in from the input stream, but yeah, also all the processing that we do, all of the, if you've got loudness monitoring, for example, we're having to read back from the disk to pull that data in to compute the loudness, to split out the audio tracks and do that. The indexing, there's just a large amount of I/O happening while a recording is being created, and trusting your storage network to get all of that right every single I/O call is asking a lot.
Yeah, great points. And this, goes to why, SnapStream is a turnkey engineered solution as opposed to something we can, just deploy on any old hardware. There is a really significant amount of performance tuning that we've done to make sure that this solution is going to be stable and performant. Because, again, coming from the DVR space where we're working with a lot of non-technical users, they really have high expectations for how a software interface is going to respond. And so, we bring those standards to Moco as well, and that's why we engineer this so carefully to make sure that it's going to do exactly what the users want every time, and then it's going to be there when they go to look at it. Question about our support. How does it work? Is the hardware covered? Can we install on site? Is there training? The short answer is yes, but Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about how our support works?
Yeah, support works pretty much. We're 24/7, 365 pretty much. We have core hours between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern, Central. As far as for a live technician, and any time beyond that is an on-call technician that will reply to you. As far as hardware support, hardware's covered as long as you have a valid support contract, and I believe that's up to 5 years for hardware. And we do on-site installations, and while we are there, we also will do an onboarding and training session with your users if needed.
Great, and we do onboarding and training even if we're not there. We do those sessions routinely. Pretty much any of our support technicians is qualified to run a training session for your users, and we do that routinely as part of our deployment process. Don't be shy with those questions, folks. Let's see. Is there a cloud version? Is the SnapStream Cloud product separate from Moco? Yeah, looks like that was picked up from our website. So SnapStream Cloud is actually a deployment option for our DVR service. We don't have any concrete plans today to run Moco in the cloud. As we discussed previously, the performance needs for the operations that are going into monitoring and compliance are fairly significant. The storage needs also are fairly significant because, for legal reasons, most of our customers in this space are keeping files for months or even a year or more. So to do those things in the cloud, doesn't really make a lot of sense right now. That said, if there's something that you're looking to do, again, open up a conversation with us. Let's talk about it. We always want to try to push the envelope on what we are offering. So if you want to try to do this in the cloud, let's talk about it and see if it makes sense. not sure if I addressed this one. Is proxy generation part of the base server, or is it part of a different node? Does anyone recall? Did we answer that one already? I apologize.
We did not.
Okay. Pete, do you want to talk about that one at all?
Absolutely. Actually, in the Moco product, what we do for proxy generation is there's a Quadro card installed in the server itself locally, and those are incredibly good at generating proxies. We can do a huge number on one card and one server with no problems whatsoever, and that keeps the work off the CPU itself. And so due to the fact that the card isn't installed locally, all proxy generation is done on the node where the recordings are made. And so that makes it a lot simpler and avoids problems of trying to send proxies across the network and get them back. And it's worked very well for us so far.
Great, thanks. And it's as far as the other aspect of this is licensing. As I mentioned earlier, we don't license different features a la carte. Everything is just part of the one rolled up license that comes with the hardware. So the turnkey appliance that we offer as the deployment platform for Moco does it all, does the proxy generation, does the clipping. So there's no add-ons there at all. One other question was about the whether this is going to be available offline as a recording. We are recording this, so we will be sending out a link to that to everyone, so you can use that as a background for a demo if you may want to set that up. Our pace of questions has sort of slowed down a little bit, so I think we're going to. I think I'm going to wrap it up here, and we'll.
We did have one more, Daniel.
Oh, my apologies. I don't see it. Paul, what the?
It says, what is the possibility to expand on a basic or medium system in the future?
Okay, great question. So
we have to scroll down in the Q&A section because we were sort of running off the end there.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Well, Paul, do you want to address that?
That's going to be an account management question, which I haven't been involved in those discussions. I've focused more on the technical side. So, that's probably going to be a discussion with your account manager, basically.
But from a technical perspective, can we expand on an existing deployment?
Well, so if it's, if you've bought a 2U system and you want to upgrade to a 3U system, there's going to be a hardware swap there, right? But actually, preserving your data and transitioning, that's a question, more for Pete and Michael, since those are the types of activities they've been involved in. I believe that's possible, but I need to leave that to them.
Yes, we can absolutely preserve recordings from Moco to Moco if you do decide to upgrade. That should not be a problem at all. And yeah, the hardware swap thing is a thing that we haven't covered. So that would be a question for the account executive, and that'd be discussion internally.
Right, but in terms of what does the cost look like on doing that? That's, our account executives are easy to work with, and they definitely want to always capture more of your money if they can. So, just ask.
Not give away the game here, Paul. But yeah, we want to make it easy to expand if that's necessary. Of course, there are limits to what any individual piece of equipment can do. But we will work with you to either expand to those limits or figure out a way to get beyond them, either through additional hardware or a hardware swap. The licensing is a simple, stepwise upgrade. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask one more poll question. It's just whether you are in the market for a monitoring and compliance solution. So I'm going to put that up now.
Yeah, there's also a few more Q&A questions coming in, if you want to.
Oh, okay. So while we're waiting on that, so modular capabilities, I wouldn't say that it has no modular capabilities, but it's somewhat limited because everything is self-contained. When we get to the when we get to the limit of how many streams can be recorded in a single box, then we do need to add new hardware. And we can do that in, we should be able to do that in a modular fashion, such that we're adding a smaller box to a larger box, but we don't have like a 2-tuner add-on to a 10-tuner box or something like that. It does require some new hardware. Do we have recurring licensing fees? That is typically with Moco, we are doing a CapEx model, so that you are paying upfront for the equipment, and then a yearly support contract of, I think, 15% of the original hardware cost. So there's not typically a licensing fee on top of that. If you're interested in doing an OpEx model, less common in this space, we can set that up. This again is something that we'd love to talk to you about as part of a proposal. Let's see. This is an interesting question. When running multiple windows for playback, can you set the windows for different time intervals? And do the on-screen controls affect all of the open windows simultaneously? Let me bring up the interface a little bit so that we can talk intelligently about that. So can we set the windows for different time intervals? Yes, you can navigate the windows independently. So you can see let's see. So I don't think that we're showing that in this screenshot. In both of these, the windows are synced, but they don't have to be. You can play back one window. You can set these windows completely independently. You can play back this one last week and the other one from today. The on-screen controls are only going to affect the active window. So you'll click on one and it'll be highlighted. That's what you see over here on the right, where Cartoon Network is in blue. So that's the one that the controls will affect. And then we can use the live button to sync these windows. So that's how that works. That's a really interesting question. Thank you. All right, I'm going to close this poll here. And yeah, so if you do have, I've mentioned this a couple of times, but we'd love to keep the conversation going with any of you. So if you want to talk about what kind of proposal we could put together for you, go to this address, snapstream.com/proposal, and you can get in touch with one of our account managers to collect your requirements and put together a quote. Or just email us at sales@snapstream.com. We're happy to answer any further questions, or just talk about what this product does and how it works. Yeah, we'd love to talk more. So thank you very much. There's an address one more time for follow-up if you want it. And thanks for joining us today. We're going to wrap it up here, and we'll be sending out the recording of this webinar to all of you afterwards so that you can share it out, and please do so. Thanks a lot.